All right, boys, we are back. We have Premier League predictions for Match Week 23. I just want to say I appreciate everybody who's been watching the videos, who's been subscribing to the channels, who's been liking the video, commenting your predictions below. All of it means a lot to me. It really helps me understand what other people are thinking. Some people have really good analysis, really good insight. So if you're someone who disagrees with a prediction or you agree with the prediction, I'd love to know why in the comment section. Let's get to the Match Week 22 recap. Match Week 22 was nothing short of a disaster in my opinion. I wish I could have done a lot better here, but I mean, it just wasn't meant to be. A lot of crazy results here, starting with Manchester City and Manchester United. I had a 1-1 draw, which I thought was putting respect on United. It ends 2-0 for United, and it just looks very bad for me, right? 1 out of 3 on the 1x2, BTTS and over under, so not a good result, even though in my head I felt good about telling people that I didn't think City would win. Chelsea versus Brentford, I had 2-1 for Chelsea. They win 2-0. I think it's a pretty decent prediction here, but I mean, not conceding to Brentford was a bit surprising to me, so only 1 out of 3 on the markets there. Leeds versus Fulham was my best prediction of Match Week 22. I had 1-0 for Leeds. They scored a late goal, which is very surprising because I don't really get late goals to cash my correct score predictions, but that one was there. Liverpool, Burnley, pretty insane. I had 3-0 for Liverpool. They draw 1-1, just an absolute disaster for them. Sunderland versus Crystal Palace, I had 1-0 for Sunderland. They win 2-1. Again, another match where I got the result right, and I just feel like I did better than a 1 out of 3 on those markets, but we'll take the Sunderland 1-0, or excuse me, we'll take the Sunderland win, but just kind of surprising that they also conceded a goal and still won the match, right? Like I would have thought if Sunderland would have won the match, there's no way they're conceding. Tottenham versus West Ham, I had Tottenham to win 2-0. They lose 2-1, so absolutely one of the worst predictions of the match week, and Tottenham reminding me again that they are a very impossible team to predict so far. I feel like the last couple months it's just been like that for Tottenham and me. I just cannot really grasp what they're going to do and when they're going to do it. Arsenal and Nottingham Forest, I had 2-0 for Arsenal. It ends 0-0. I know I got 2 out of 3 in the markets right. Not getting the Arsenal win is pretty disappointing here, but I think if you told me that Arsenal were going to drop points this match and it was a 0-0 draw, I mean, I could have, it wasn't like totally surprising, but I still thought they would have won this match. So shout out to Forest for, you know, holding them to a clean sheet. Wolves and Newcastle, I had 2-1 for Newcastle. It ends in another 0-0 draw. So these 2 0-0 draws, a tough one, right? Whenever I try to predict a 0-0, it's never a 0-0. So we had 2 0-0s here, and it kind of cooked me a little bit. Aston Villa and Everton, I had 2-1 for Villa. It ends 1-0 for Everton. Probably the most surprising result for me on the weekend. I know the Burnley Liverpool 1-1 is pretty crazy, but there's something about Villa losing this match to 0 that just absolutely stunned me on this match week. And then Brighton and Bournemouth, I mean, I had 3-2 Brighton. I was feeling a spicy match, and I couldn't have been more wrong. It ended 1-1, and I only got the BTTS right. So overall, only 3 BTTSs right, only 3 results right, only 3 over-unders right. I mean, the correct score is a nice thing to get in this match week, but man, I think I'd give myself a 3 out of 10, and I would only say 3 out of 10 because of the correct score. If I did not have that correct score, I mean, it's probably like a 1 or a 2. I mean, this is just disgusting for me, so let's hope match week 23 is better. West Ham versus Sunderland is our first match in match week 23. It's the early Saturday match. We have West Ham at 2.5. We have Sunderland at 2.8 and the draw at 3.2. I think the odds do kind of make sense to me. I feel like the slight favorite to West Ham because they're at home. Sunderland's away form hasn't been that good lately. The over-under sits at about 2.5, and both teams' scores at about 1.8. And like I said, Sunderland's away form I think is the main issue on the odds here. West Ham, I mean, they're not that much better either, but I guess the idea really, and that's what the odds reflect here, right? Neither team is close to really 2 odds, so I feel like there's going to be nothing that's going to help us here in the recent head-to-head, right? We have one match here where Sunderland beat them 3-0 at home, but I do think that now because West Ham are just slightly favorites and both teams' score is about 1.8, it makes me feel like West Ham are going to win this match to 0, and that's kind of what I'm going with here. I'm going to go with a West Ham 2-0 win over Sunderland. Burnley and Tottenham is the next match in match week 23 here. For the odds, we have Burnley at 3.6, Tottenham at 2.05, and right away, I think just even looking at the table here, I am quite surprised Tottenham are slightly above 2 odd, but I mean, at the same time, they are only 10 points off relegation here, so maybe the books are kind of taking into account their recent form in the Prem, and I mean, it's been pretty bad, right? They're trying to avoid their 4th straight loss in this match. Burnley at home are actually, I mean, back and forth with losses and draws here. They've drawn United 2-2, which is pretty great. They drew Everton 0-0, which I kind of think is good. They did lose to Newcastle. They did lose to Fulham in that 2-3 thriller. Tottenham away from home, very inconsistent, right? Draw, loss, win, draw, loss. So there's not anything kind of particular here that makes me go either way. The one thing I did notice was that Tottenham have an insane amount of injuries in this match, and I feel like with all these injuries, this could be a slight issue. Now, I don't really try to overly account for injuries because I feel like the books already keep that in mind, but I think for my prediction here, I really do not think I can go with anything that results in a Tottenham win here. If Tottenham do get the win here, that'd be, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked or anything, but I think for predictions, standpoint and trying to get myself right back on track with Tottenham results, I'm going to go with a kind of a crazy result here, but I'm going to go with a Burnley 2-1 win over Tottenham. Fulham and Brighton is the next match here. We see the odds are Fulham at 2.55. We have Brighton at 2.75. Both teams to score is 1.62. The over-under sits right at about 2.5, but the odds are pretty good for it, so I think the odds will actually probably close around 3 here realistically. The head-to-head with Fulham here, they have 3 wins in their last 5. Brighton's away form is pretty bad. No wins in the Prem in their last 4 matches, but their last win was against Nottingham Forest away from home back in the end of November. Between the two teams, we do see a lot of both teams to score here with only 1 BTTS no. It looks like a couple of matches that go over 2.5 as well. So, I mean, I could really see Fulham getting the result here. I really could see Fulham winning this match even, and I think that is kind of what I want to back here. I don't think I can go with BTTS no. The match team seems a little bit too high-powered for that. So I'm going to go with a Fulham 2-1 win over Brighton. Manchester City versus Wolves is the next match here. We have the odds sitting at 1.2 for City, which is pretty, I mean, that's pretty straightforward to me. The both teams to score is 1.8. I guess they're kind of thinking Wolves can score. Maybe Manchester City playing midweek in Champions League and losing that match to Boda could possibly be giving the books an idea that, hey, if Boda can score 3 on them, surely Wolves can score 1 on them. And then for the odds here on the total, we see 3.5 is at 2 odd. So I'm not going to bore people too much with the analysis here because I think there's not really much to analyze, right? We can try to assume that City is going to lose their 3rd straight game, and we can assume that Wolves are going for a 5th straight result here, right? And their last loss came back in, I guess, back in 2025. So the Wolves in 2026 have been pretty good, but I mean, it's tough though, right? I know Wolves, it does look good, you know, a draw against United, a win against West Ham, a draw against Everton here, and then they drew 0-0 to Newcastle. But I just think City at home, I just want to trust the talent. I just want to trust Pep here. So for City and Wolves, I'm going to go with a 3-0 City win. Bournemouth and Liverpool is our next match. For the odds, we have Bournemouth at 3.75. We have Liverpool at 1.9. The first thing I noticed about these odds is that it is very similar to the Marseille-Liverpool odds in Champions League that was yesterday. So I'm a bit surprised that even after a thrashing in France, that they're still only giving Liverpool a 1.9 on the odds here. The over-under sits a little bit below 3. I think 2.5 is 1.62, and then 3 is going to close probably near 2. And then we have the both teams to score at 1.53. So both teams are probably scoring in this match with the line that low. Bournemouth at home, just pretty decent, I'd say. I mean, we have a couple L's here to Everton and Arsenal, but they did draw Chelsea. They drew Burnley, which is bad. So it's like kind of a weird like last 5 matches here with like some good losses. I know like saying a good loss is kind of crazy, but a 3-2 loss to Arsenal, I mean, it was right there for the taking, but they just couldn't get it. They did beat Tottenham though too, so it's like, again, like good losses, good draws, bad loss. So Bournemouth are all over the place here. Liverpool away from home have been very nice, which is kind of what makes me a little bit surprised that they're still only 1.9. I would have thought Liverpool would have been like 1.7 maybe. So very surprised that they're 1.9 here, and I think that's gonna kind of build my prediction here. So last thing I want to check here is just the recent head-to-head. We have 4-2 Liverpool, 2-0 Liverpool, 3-0 Liverpool. So it does seem like Liverpool has won all 5 matches in their recent 5 here, and I think this is gonna be one of those matches where either if this line moves closer to 1.7, I think Liverpool wins probably, but if this line stays at 1.9 or even goes up, I do think Liverpool are in trouble here. But for the prediction being on a Thursday here, I'm going to go with a Bournemouth-Liverpool 1-1 draw. Brentford and Nottingham Forest is our next match here in Matchweek 23. We have Brentford at 1.9 on the 1x2. We have both teams score at 1.8, and then we have the over-under at 2.5. So very low total, high both teams to score odd, and then the 1x2 slightly favors Brentford here. The head-to-head for Brentford is actually pretty solid here. They have a couple wins against they have a couple wins against Everton and Sunderland here, and then Nottingham Forest have about, I mean, they have a decent win here against West Ham, but other than that, they just seem to lose matches they're supposed to lose, right? I mean, the draw against Arsenal is very good, but usually, like, I don't take, like, this type of draw into consideration too much because you know how it is. Like, the best teams always have the other team giving them their best shot. It's always one of those things, right? When you're at the top, teams just play a little bit different, right? I'm imagining that all these, like, bottom teams in the Prem always give their best shot to, like, a top 6 team, right? And then they can drop a game against Brentford here. And I actually think that's what's going to end up happening in this match. So for Brentford and Nottingham Forest, I'm going with a 2-0 Brentford win. Crystal Palace versus Chelsea is the next match here for the odds on the 1x2. We have 3.4 for Crystal Palace, 2 odd for Chelsea, and 3.8 on the draw. The over-under sits about maybe 3. I think 3 is going to be that number because 1.73 for 2.5 is a little bit low there. And then both teams to score is 1.67, which is a very generic number for both teams to score in the Prem, as we know. Crystal Palace is struggling heavily right now. Heavily. They have not gotten a win win since December 7th against Fulham. So it has been a long time. So they're trying to break this insane run of no wins here. We look at Chelsea with the new manager. I guess he's kind of cooking a little bit, right? They did beat Paphos 1-0. They did beat Brentford 2-0. They lost to Arsenal in that thriller 3-2 in the cup match there, and then they beat Charlton here 5-1. So, and they lost to Fulham 2-1. There isn't much here for Chelsea to really draw conclusions from because of the manager change, because of the rotations in their lineup. Like, we don't really know how to evaluate Chelsea, I feel like, because it's just like we get a different Chelsea team, it feels like, every time we load up a match, right? It's like a brand new Chelsea team. There's just a lot of players that get a lot of playing time. The recent head-to-head is a bit interesting, though. We have 3 straight draws, and then we have, before those 3 straight draws, we do have a 3-1 Chelsea win and a 2-1 Chelsea win. In this match, though, I do kind of want to give Crystal Palace a little bit of respect. I was very torn between 2-1 Chelsea and a 1-1 draw, and I just can't really get myself to think that, I can't get myself to think that Crystal Palace are going to drop another match here. I think we're going to go into the direction of them maybe either drawing or winning, so I kind of am feeling Crystal Palace more of like a result here, right? I'm not really sure if it's a draw result or a shocker win result, but for the sake of the prediction here for Crystal Palace and Chelsea, I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. Newcastle versus Aston Villa is the next match here in match week 23. We have a lot of injuries here for Newcastle. I wasn't even planning on talking about that, but it just seems like it's a little crazy injury report there. Same with Villa here too, not having Boubacar Kamara or Amadou Onana. Even John McGinn's kind of an issue for them as well. The odds here are Newcastle are 1.95 on the 1x2. Aston Villa's 3.7. The over-under's 2.5, probably 3 actually, and then the both team score is 1.57. So the books are fully believing both teams can score, so I'm interested in seeing how that plays out. Newcastle are coming off that really nice win against PSV in Champions League. Aston Villa play today. I forget who they play off the top of my head, but they play today, so I'm curious to see how that result goes, what their lineup looks like, to decide, you know, maybe if this prediction could change a little bit. But since I have these predictions earlier so people can see them, I won't get to see what Villa's result is. The first thing I did notice when I opened up this match before I did my predictions, I was like, oh yeah, this is the match that went 0-0 to start the Prem season here. So thinking that we may not get another 0-0 here, hopefully. Newcastle at home, like I said, pretty solid here at home. Don't lose too much at St. James Park. Aston Villa away from home also have been really good. So I think the odds favoring Newcastle being below 2 odd is kind of a little bit interesting for me here, because I did not think Newcastle would be below 2 odd, right? When I loaded up this match, I thought Newcastle would be maybe around like 2.2, 2.3. Villa would be maybe closer to 3.5. But I wonder if the maybe the rest, maybe the fact that Villa played on Thursday, Newcastle played on Wednesday could be a factor here. And I think I might back that factor a little bit. So for Newcastle and Aston Villa, I'm going to go with a 2-1 Newcastle win. Arsenal versus Manchester United is our next match in match week 23, and I think this is one of the more exciting matches of the match week. For the odds, we have Arsenal sitting at 1.57, United at 5.75, and the draw at 4.2. The over-under sits at about 3, which I find pretty, you know, interesting. A little bit higher, so I wonder if they're really believing United could score. Both teams' score sits at 1.75. Now, I do realize that, you know, Arsenal's defense is insane. I do realize that United have gotten, you know, Mbeumo back into their lineup, so that's going to be a factor here. And I do see that United have been having a bunch of both teams to score here. The only issue I have with going with the both teams to score result is that it's Arsenal, right? Arsenal are so against both teams to score that, I mean, they'll occasionally do a 0-0 here, right, against you know, Liverpool and Nottingham Forest. Arsenal have been just pretty insane here. So you see this 3-1 result against Inter Milan. I thought it'd be a draw. My thought process was Arsenal get the result for sure. I thought Arsenal would not lose the match. I thought it'd be a draw because the way the odds were set up, and Arsenal went in there and looked pretty well. I just think that United's not going to have a game plan for Arsenal set pieces, right? Do we think that United can stop Arsenal set pieces? I'm going to say no. I think there's going to be a penalty in this match. I think this match could have a red card. I think there's so many things and factors that can go into this match. Even a first half injury that could turn the match on its head. I know. I'm just kind of spewing nonsense here a little bit, but that's what these kind of matches require, right? I got to spew some nonsense. So I think for Arsenal United, I was going back and forth with predictions, like, you know, maybe a 2-1, maybe a 1-1, but I kind of settled on one of my more favorite Arsenal predictions of the year, which I do pretty well on normally. Now, obviously, last week it didn't go too well, but I'm going to go back to the old reliable. For Arsenal and Manchester United, I'm going with a 2-0 Arsenal win. The final match of match week 23 is Everton and Leeds. For the odds here, we have Everton at 2.5, Leeds at 2.9, the draw at 3.25. I mean, I'll be honest, right away, today, I was thinking of 3 results. Only 3 results were coming to my brain. 1-0 Everton, 1-1 draw, or 0-0 draw. So I'm just going to give a little spoiler tease on those 3 results as I go over the over-under. So the over-under for the match is going to be sitting at 2.25, which is very low. The both teams score sits at 1.91, which is very high. So you can kind of understand where I'm going with the whole 1-0 for Everton, 1-1 or 0-0 here. Everton at home have been pretty bad, actually. They have not won since Nottingham Forest in December. Leeds away from home, pretty good. They do a lot of draws here, a couple of 1-1 draws, and then they had a 0-0 draw versus Liverpool, which is very, very, very impressive to me. Recently, when they play, we've seen a 1-0, 1-0, 1-1, 3-0, 2-2. So I don't want to make this type of prediction because I know it's a little bit crazy, and I know that the second the first goal goes in, it looks ridiculous. So I'm going to lay out the prediction like this. I'm going to put down 0-0 draw, right? I want to see if this is a type of match that could be a 0-0 draw. It would really, I feel like it would really screw over a lot of the sports bettors, right, that are going to be betting on this match at 3 o'clock on that Monday. So because of that reason, I feel like this could be a match that's very low scoring. So I'm thinking more low scoring, more draw, and I think low scoring draw could be 1-1, but for the sake of the prediction, I'm going to go with Everton and Leeds 0-0 draw. All right, boys, that wraps up the predictions for Match Week 23. I apologize in advance if the video felt a little bit rushed or if it felt like there's a little bit of errors here and there. I just wanted to get this video out. I was very back and forth on making this a short video, like a short or a TikTok or an IG reel, but I want to stay consistent with the YouTube videos here, so that is why it's going to be maybe a little bit rougher than my other ones, so I apologize in advance, but that doesn't mean the predictions could be bad, so I'm hoping to have a much, much better match week than Match Week 22, so if you guys haven't already, I'd really appreciate if you guys subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment down below which predictions you agree with, disagree with, and what your predictions are. I appreciate you, boys, and I will see you guys on the next one.